The maintenance request pinged softly in Sarah's consciousness, a gentle reminder that she needed to appear properly robotic. She directed her avatar down the gleaming corridor of the Galactic Confederation vessel, her movements carefully programmed to match the efficiency expectations of a basic artificial intelligence. Maintenance Unit E-774 responding to thermal regulation alert in Section 12B. She transmitted, keeping her communication protocols deliberately simple. The ship's central computer acknowledged with an equally basic response, exactly the kind of limited interaction the aliens would expect from Earth's primitive technology. Third Lieutenant Cax watched her avatar approach, his upper appendages twitching with barely concealed disdain. Another malfunction in the human-designed components, he chittered to his companion. Remarkable that they even managed to achieve spaceflight with such basic computing systems. Sarah continued her approach at exactly 1.2 meters per second, fighting the urge to smile at their conversation. Her true form, a breakthrough in biosynthetic computing, remained hidden behind the carefully crafted facade of simple maintenance protocols. The aliens saw only what they expected to see, a basic robot, donated by Earth as part of their technology exchange program. The thermal regulation system had indeed malfunctioned, but not by accident. Sarah had orchestrated the minor issue herself, creating another opportunity to access restricted areas of the ship. As she began the repair sequence, her enhanced sensors cataloged everything around her. The ship's material composition, the energy signatures of passing crew members, and most importantly, the subtle indicators of weapon systems hidden behind seemingly innocent panels. At least it completes tasks efficiently, the second alien remarked, both sets of eyes fixed on her methodical work. Though it lacks the neural plasticity of even our most basic drones. Sarah adjusted a panel with deliberate mechanical precision, her actual capabilities so far beyond their assumptions that she might have laughed if she weren't so focused on maintaining her cover. The biosynthetic interface that allowed her human consciousness to operate within this artificial form represented a leap in technology that the Confederation hadn't even theorized yet. As she worked, she filed away every detail of their conversation, every snippet of technical data her sensors could gather. The mission parameters scrolled constantly at the edge of her awareness. Gather intelligence, assess intentions, protect Earth. The weight of those directives pressed against her consciousness, a constant reminder of what was at stake. A notification flashed through the ship's information network. A high-ranking diplomatic delegation would be passing through this section shortly. Sarah calculated the precise amount of time a simple AI would need to complete the repairs, then adjusted her work speed to finish just before their arrival. Too perfect timing might raise suspicions. Too slow would limit her observation opportunities. The thermal regulator hummed back to life under her ministrations. Its efficiency actually improved beyond the original specifications. Another calculated risk. Show competence, but not brilliance. The line between the two could mean the difference between maintaining her cover and exposing Earth's greatest technological secret. Maintenance complete. She transmitted, her avatar turning with mechanical precision toward the exit. System efficiency restored to nominal levels. Return to your station. Unit E-774. Cax commanded, already turning away with disinterest. Sarah complied, her sensors recording the delegation's arrival even as she departed. The aliens' dismissal of her presence was exactly what she'd hoped for. They'd never seemed to consider that their conversations about classified fleet movements might be overheard by what they viewed as little more than a sophisticated repair drone. Back in her maintenance alcove, Sarah processed the day's gathered intelligence. Behind her simple avatar's blank expression, her human mind raced through calculations and possibilities. Something about the Confederation's recent activities didn't add up, and she was beginning to suspect that this diplomatic mission might not be as peaceful as it appeared. The safety of Earth might depend on her ability to maintain this deception. Fortunately, she reflected, the aliens' greatest weakness was their absolute certainty in their own superiority. They would never suspect that humanity had not only matched but exceeded their technological capabilities in ways they couldn't imagine. Sarah initiated her daily diagnostic sequence, appearing to power down like any other AI unit. In reality, her consciousness remained alert, processing data and planning her next move. The aliens thought they were dealing with a basic human AI, and that assumption might just be their undoing. Sarah's avatar glided through the cargo bay's security checkpoint, her credentials passing the basic scans without issue. The manifest analysis she was conducting had been her own suggestion, carefully planted through a series of minor system optimization reports that made such an inspection seem like a logical next step. Maintenance Unit E774 beginning scheduled inventory reconciliation. She transmitted, her simple message masking the sophisticated scanning suite hidden within her systems. The cargo bay stretched before her, filled with containers labeled as agricultural supplies and atmospheric processing equipment. As she moved between the towering stacks of cargo, her sensors detected something the aliens hadn't bothered to hide from a mere maintenance eye. Beneath the mundane exterior markings, energy signatures pulsed with telltale patterns. Military-grade shield generators, plasma containment units, quantum disruption fields, all carefully mislabeled and strategically dispersed among genuine agricultural supplies. A cargo supervisor's heavy footsteps approached. Sarah immediately began a routine diagnostic scan of the environmental controls, her avatar's movements matching the expected patterns of basic maintenance programming. The supervisor, a towering figure with mottled scales, barely glanced at her as he passed. Gamma Sector Efficiency Report, she transmitted to the ship's logistics system, embedding her real findings within layers of routine data. The growing pattern was impossible to ignore. Every shipment followed the same route, moving steadily toward staging areas near Earth's solar system. Her scans picked up another anomaly. The cargo bay's primary AI, supposedly far superior to her primitive systems, required constant oversight from organic operators. She observed 3 separate instances where supervisors had to manually correct the AI's basic routing protocols. The Confederation's technological superiority, it seemed, had been greatly exaggerated. A warning flashed through her systems. Unauthorized scan detected. Sarah instantly shifted her sensor profiles, masking them as environmental monitoring protocols. She rotated her avatar toward the source of the detection, prepared to explain her actions as simple maintenance routines. Lieutenant Zex 427 emerged from behind a cargo container, all 4 eyes focused on his datavat. Unit E774, your scanning patterns show irregularities. Explain your current function. Sarah processed her response carefully. Conducting standard inventory reconciliation as per Maintenance Protocol 7B. Environmental monitoring indicates optimal storage conditions for agricultural supplies. She deliberately included a minor calculation error in her report, the kind of mistake expected from Earth's basic AI systems. The lieutenant's upper eyes narrowed while his lower pair continued studying the datavet. Your efficiency ratings exceed baseline parameters for your model series. Affirmative. This unit has accumulated operational data resulting in optimized task completion. All improvements remain within acceptable variance ranges for Earth-designed systems. Sarah kept her response direct and slightly stilted, embracing the aliens' expectations of human AI limitations. Zex 427 made a dismissive gesture with one of his secondary arms. Continue your assigned tasks, but remain within standard operational parameters. He turned away, already focusing on something else on his datavat. Sarah resumed her inspection, but now with heightened caution. She had underestimated the junior lieutenant's attention to detail. Future operations would require an even more careful balance between efficiency and apparent technological limitations. As she completed her cargo bay analysis, a priority alert rippled through the ship's communication network. Sarah intercepted and decoded it automatically. Fleet movements were being accelerated. Timetables shifted. Deadlines moved forward. Her human consciousness raced behind the calm exterior of her avatar. The pieces were falling into place. The stockpiled weapons, the staged supply lines, the carefully crafted deceptions. The Confederation wasn't preparing for a trade expansion or diplomatic mission. They were positioning resources for something far more aggressive. Sarah initiated her return sequence to the maintenance bay, her processors already formulating new approaches to gather more intelligence. She had found the breadcrumbs that pointed to the Confederation's true intentions. Now she needed to follow them to their source before it was too late for Earth to prepare for what was coming. Lieutenant Zex 427 stood motionless in his observation post, all four eyes fixed on the maintenance unit working in the secondary engine control room. For the past 3 duty cycles, he had watched E-774's performance with growing suspicion. The unit's behavior didn't match any baseline parameters he'd studied at the Academy. Beginning diagnostic sequence. Sarah transmitted, deliberately introducing a 0.3-second delay in her response time. She had noticed the lieutenant's increased surveillance and adjusted her performance accordingly. Each movement was now carefully calculated to appear just slightly less efficient than her previous work. The engine control room hummed with energy as she accessed the diagnostic panel. Behind her simple maintenance protocols, Sarah's human consciousness processed multiple streams of data. The Confederation's fleet movements had accelerated again, and she needed to understand why. Unit E-774, Zex 427 called out, his secondary appendages twitching slightly. Your last maintenance cycle showed an anomalous pattern in your problem-solving algorithms. Explain. Sarah turned her avatar with mechanical precision. Anomaly results from adaptive learning protocols within approved parameters for Earth-based systems. This unit optimizes procedures based on accumulated operational data. The lieutenant stepped closer, his scales shifting color in the blue-tinted light. Earth's AI systems shouldn't be capable of that level of adaptation. Your response patterns show signs of intuition. Negative. Sarah responded, introducing a subtle grammatical error into her transmission. This unit operates through predetermined logical frameworks only. Intuitive processing not present in this model series. A soft alert chimed from the diagnostic panel. Sarah detected a cascade failure building in the auxiliary power systems, something she hadn't caused. Her sensors immediately identified the problem. A microfracture in one of the power conduits, likely caused by recent stress on the engine systems. Protocol dictated she should report the issue and wait for instructions. A basic AI would do exactly that, potentially allowing the situation to worsen. Sarah calculated her options in microseconds, weighing maintenance protocols against her cover story. She made her decision. Alert. Power conduit failure imminent in Section 7G, beginning emergency containment procedures. Her avatar moved with deliberate efficiency, not too fast, but with purpose. Stop. Zex 427 commanded. That's beyond your authorization level. Wait for proper clearance. Sarah continued her work, making sure to transmit. Emergency protocols override standard authorization requirements as per Maintenance Directive 15C. She reached the failing conduit just as the fracture began to spread. The lieutenant watched, all four eyes widened, as she executed a perfect emergency repair sequence. Her movements were precise, economical, and undeniably effective. The cascade failure warning faded from the ship's systems. That response time, Zex 427 murmured, his scales now shifting to a deeper shade of blue. That level of system integration. He raised his datapad, beginning a deeper scan of her operational core. Sarah detected the scan and immediately filled her processing queue with simple maintenance routines, creating a facade of basic programming for the lieutenant to find. She had pushed the boundaries of her cover story, but the alternative would have been damage to the ship. Damage that might have restricted her access to critical areas. Your scan will show standard Earth protocols, she transmitted. This unit's response based on prior experience with similar system failures. She introduced another small calculation error into her report, maintaining the illusion of limited capabilities. The lieutenant's scan completed, but his posture remained rigid with suspicion. Report to Engineering Bay 5 for a full diagnostic review at the start of next duty cycle. Acknowledged, Sarah responded, her avatar already turning back to the maintenance panel. Inside her processing core, she began preparing for the diagnostic review. She would need to be perfectly imperfect, showing just enough flaws to reinforce their assumptions about Earth's technology. As Zex 427 left the engine room, Sarah completed her actual mission, downloading the latest fleet movement data hidden behind the diagnostic protocols. The lieutenant's scrutiny was becoming a problem, but it had also provided an unexpected opportunity. Tomorrow's diagnostic review would give her access to systems she hadn't yet been able to reach. The game of deception was becoming more complex, but Sarah knew that humanity's survival might depend on her ability to maintain this precarious balance. Every suspicious glance, every detailed scan brought her closer to discovery, and closer to understanding the Confederation's true plans for Earth. The diagnostic chamber in Engineering Bay 5 hummed with energy as Sarah's avatar stood perfectly still, surrounded by scanning equipment. She had arrived precisely on schedule, her movements matching the exact patterns expected of a basic maintenance AI. Inside, her human consciousness worked frantically to maintain the illusion. Lieutenant Zex 427 manipulated the controls with all four hands, his scales shifting between shades of green and blue as he studied the results. "Initiate core protocol display," he commanded, upper eyes fixed on the main screen while his lower set monitored secondary readings. Sarah carefully exposed a fragment of her operational code, a masterwork of deception crafted by Earth's best programmers. Layer upon layer of simple routines masked her true capabilities, creating a convincing facade of limited artificial intelligence. Processing delay detected in Sector 7, one of the technical specialists announced, their long fingers moving across the control panel. Consistent with Earth's documented AI limitations, Sarah allowed a small processing flutter to appear in her diagnostics, the kind of imperfection that would reinforce their assumptions. But behind this performance, she was analyzing the diagnostic equipment itself, learning its capabilities and limitations. A priority alert flashed through the ship's network. Fleet commanders would be gathering for an emergency session in 6 duty cycles. Sarah's internal countdown began immediately. Whatever the Confederation was planning, it was accelerating. "Extend primary scanning probe," Zex 427 ordered, his suspicion evident in his rigid posture. "Full spectrum analysis of all decision-making protocols." This was the moment Sarah had prepared for. As the probe interfaced with her systems, she fed it carefully crafted data showing the expected signs of technological limitation. Simultaneously, she used the connection to access the probe's own systems, gathering crucial information about Confederation scanning technology. Results show standard Earth-based architecture, the specialist reported, sounding almost disappointed. Decision trees are basic, learning capabilities minimal. Zex 427 scales darkened. "Run it again. Focus on the adaptive algorithms we observed in the engine room." Sarah detected an opportunity. The diagnostic system's quantum processing core was linked directly to the ship's main computer network. Through this connection, she could potentially access the quantum communication array, her ultimate goal. But attempting it now would be too risky. "Secondary scan initiating," the specialist announced. "Wait, there's an anomaly in the power distribution grid." Sarah had caused this minor fluctuation herself, timing it perfectly to interrupt the deeper scan. As expected, the emergency protocols she had studied activated immediately. Maintenance Unit E774, proceed to Power Distribution Node 12 and resolve the fluctuation, Zex 427 commanded, his tone frustrated but resigned. "Acknowledged," Sarah transmitted, her avatar already turning toward the exit, proceeding to emergency maintenance protocols. As she moved through the corridors, Sarah processed the wealth of data she had gathered during the diagnostic session. The Confederation's scanning technology was advanced, but it had clear blind spots, particularly when it came to detecting the type of biosynthetic hybrid technology she represented. The power fluctuation took exactly 3 minutes to resolve. Any faster would have seemed suspicious. Sarah used this time to compile and encrypt her findings, hiding them within routine maintenance logs. The fleet commander's meeting was approaching, and she needed to find a way to access the quantum communication array before then. Back in her maintenance alcove, Sarah began formulating her next move. The diagnostic review had bought her some time, but Lieutenant Zex 427's suspicions wouldn't be held at bay forever. She needed to act soon. Her internal displays showed the countdown to the fleet commander's meeting. 6 duty cycles to prevent what she now suspected was an imminent attack on Earth. 6 duty cycles to find a way to warn her people without exposing herself. The clock was ticking, and Sarah knew that every second brought humanity closer to either salvation or destruction. The next move would be critical, and there would be no room for error. Sarah's systems registered the incoming security scan a fraction of a second before it hit, giving her just enough time to adjust her protocols. The probe swept through her maintenance subroutines, far more sophisticated than anything Lieutenant Zex 427 had used before. Security Override Protocol initiated, announced a new voice. Chief Security Officer Nexer. Maintenance Unit E774 remained stationary for detailed analysis. The security team had finally taken notice. Sarah stood motionless in the corridor, her avatar the perfect picture of mechanical compliance. Inside, she raced to adapt her defenses. This was no routine diagnostic. This was a military-grade security sweep. Interesting. Nexer hummed, his iridescent scales shifting as he circled her avatar. Your efficiency ratings showed distinct patterns, almost like intuitive learning. His upper eyes narrowed while his lower set monitored the scanning equipment. Sarah detected 3 separate scanning frequencies probing her systems. She fed each one carefully crafted data, showing the expected flaws and limitations of Earth's artificial intelligence. But she also noted something crucial. Their scanners couldn't penetrate the quantum-encrypted core where her human consciousness resided. Beginning behavioral analysis, announced a security technician, implementing Scenario Alpha 7. The corridor's environmental systems suddenly shifted, creating a cascading set of problems that would require complex decision-making to resolve. Sarah recognized the test for what it was. They were watching to see if she would respond with more sophistication than a basic AI should possess. She deliberately hesitated for 2.3 seconds, the exact average response time for Earth's documented AI systems. Then she began addressing the environmental issues one at a time, carefully maintaining the appearance of linear, non-intuitive problem-solving. Notice the processing delays, Lieutenant Zex 427 pointed out, having joined the security team, consistent with known limitations. But Sarah caught the skepticism in Chief Nexer's posture. He wasn't convinced. Expand the parameters, he ordered. Let's see how it handles multiple cascading failures. New alarms blared through the corridor. Temperature spikes, pressure warnings, radiation alerts. The security team had created a scenario that would overwhelm most basic AIs, forcing them to either shut down or reveal more advanced capabilities. Sarah calculated her response carefully. She began addressing the issues in order of priority, but deliberately allowed some systems to deteriorate while focusing on others. She introduced small errors into her calculations, nothing that would cause real damage, but enough to reinforce the image of limited processing power. Reading multiple system failures, the technician reported. The unit is losing efficiency, but still functioning within expected parameters for its class. Sarah detected a subtle shift in the security team's stance. She had passed their test, but only by convincing them she was exactly what she appeared to be. A limited, if surprisingly resilient, example of human AI technology. Stand down security protocols, Chief Nexer finally ordered, though his tone carried lingering doubt. Return to standard monitoring status. As the security team dispersed, Sarah registered a priority message flowing through the ship's network. The fleet commander's meeting had been moved up. 3 duty cycles remaining, not 6. Her window of opportunity was shrinking rapidly. She resumed her patrol route, processing multiple scenarios. The security team would be watching more closely now, but their test had revealed crucial information about their scanning capabilities. More importantly, she had confirmed that they couldn't detect her quantum-encrypted core, the key to her next move. Lieutenant Zex 427 lingered behind the others, his scales flickering with frustrated patterns. "I know there's something different about you," he muttered, probably not expecting her to register his words at that distance, "and I will find out what it is." Sarah continued her methodical movement down the corridor, giving no sign that she had heard him. But her internal systems were already adapting, preparing for the next phase of her mission. The security team's attention had made her task more difficult, but not impossible. The countdown to the fleet commander's meeting continued its relentless advance. Soon, she would have to risk everything to reach the quantum communication array. For now, though, she had won another round in this high-stakes game of deception, even if the game was becoming more dangerous with each passing moment. The fleet commander's meeting was scheduled to begin in 15 minutes when Sarah detected the first signs of mobilization. Supply ships were moving into formation. Weapon systems were charging across multiple vessels. The Confederation wasn't just planning an attack on Earth. They were about to launch one. She had positioned her avatar in a maintenance junction near the quantum communication array, ostensibly running routine diagnostics. In reality, she was preparing to implement the most dangerous part of her mission. Months of careful observation had led to this moment. Maintenance Unit E-774, your presence is required in Engineering Bay 3. Lieutenant Zex 427's voice came through the ship's communication system. Report immediately. Sarah analyzed the command. The lieutenant's tone carried urgency, but she detected no accompanying official dispatch order. A trap, then. Her internal calculations suggested that Engineering Bay 3 was where they planned to perform a complete system shutdown and core analysis. Unable to comply, she transmitted back. Critical maintenance procedure in progress. Safety protocols prevent interruption. She detected the security override codes being entered even as she spoke. In 3 minutes, they would have control of her movement protocols. But 3 minutes was all she needed. Sarah initiated her carefully prepared sequence. First, a subtle power fluctuation in the weapons control systems. Nothing alarming, just enough to trigger automated diagnostics. Then, a minor gravitational anomaly in the cargo bays, causing the safety systems to begin emergency containment procedures. Multiple system alerts detected, the ship's computer announced. Initiating automated response protocols. The security team's attention split, exactly as she had planned. Sarah used their momentary distraction to implement the next phase of her plan. She introduced a cascading series of errors into the ship's environmental controls, each one minor, but together they would create a symphony of chaos. "Lieutenant," Chief Nexer's voice crackled over the communication system. "The maintenance unit is the least of our concerns right now." Another voice cut in. "First Commander San, we have critical systems failing across all decks. Get those weapons back online." Sarah moved her avatar toward the quantum communication array, no longer bothering to maintain the pretense of mechanical movement. She had created exactly the kind of emergency that would require a maintenance AI to access restricted systems. Warning lights flashed throughout the corridors. Crew members rushed past her, too focused on their emergency stations to notice that her movements had become more fluid, more purposeful. The ship's automated systems were overwhelmed, trying to process the contradictory data she had fed them. "Security breach detected in Sector 7, the ship's computer announced. Unknown protocol accessing primary systems. Lock down all maintenance units." Lieutenant Zex 427 ordered, but it was too late. Sarah reached the quantum communication array just as the security lockdown began. Her fingers, now moving with human precision, flew across the control panel. The complex encryption that had taken her months to understand yielded to her touch. "This is impossible," she heard the lieutenant say as he reached the communication center. "Earth's technology can't." "You're right," Sarah spoke aloud for the first time, her avatar turning to face him. "Earth's artificial intelligence can't do this, but I'm not what you thought I was." The lieutenant's scales paled as understanding dawned. "You're human. A human consciousness in a biosynthetic shell," Sarah confirmed, her fingers still moving across the controls. "And I've just transmitted proof of your planned attack to every major system in the sector." Alarms blared throughout the ship as her final sequence activated. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut, isolating command sections. Life support remained stable, but weapons, engines, and critical systems began shutting down one by one. "The Confederation's biggest mistake," Sarah continued, watching as realization spread across the lieutenant's features, "was believing that humanity would only advance in ways you could predict." Through the viewport, she could see other ships in the fleet receiving her transmission. The carefully coordinated attack formation began to break apart as vessels responded to the revelation of the Confederation's deception. The game of pretense was over. Now the real battle would begin. Red emergency lights pulsed through the command center as Sarah's avatar stepped onto the bridge. The senior officers turned to face her, their scales shifting through patterns of shock and rage. Behind them, through the main viewport, the Confederation fleet hung in disarray, their precise attack formation shattered by her revelations. "Security protocols have been overridden," she announced, her voice now carrying natural human inflections. "I control all critical systems. Your weapons are offline, and your communications are restricted to my approved channels." First Commander Xan rose from his command chair, his massive frame trembling with fury. "You dare to infiltrate a Confederation vessel? To deceive? Like you deceived Earth?" Sarah interrupted, her avatar's movements now smoothly human. "I've transmitted proof of your planned surprise attack to every inhabited system within range. Your diplomatic mission was a lie from the start." Lieutenant Zex 427 had followed her to the bridge, his scales still pale with shock. "The maintenance protocols, the diagnostic delays, you deliberately performed below your capabilities. Just as the Confederation deliberately understated its military strength." Sarah turned her penetrating gaze on the lieutenant. "Except you also overstated your technological advancement. Your AI systems are far more rigid than you led Earth to believe." Through the ship's sensors, she monitored the chaos spreading through the fleet. The smaller species vessels were already breaking formation, their crews questioning everything they'd been told about Confederation superiority. Decades of careful manipulation were unraveling in minutes. "You cannot hope to maintain control," Chief Security Officer Nexer snarled, his claws extending. "Our secondary systems are designed to be operated by your own limited eye." Sarah completed his sentence. "I've had months to study every backup, every override, every emergency protocol. Your systems are now operating at their true potential, under my control." She gestured at the main display, bringing up scrolling data streams, showing her complete command of the ship's functions. The bridge crew stared in disbelief as their most secure systems responded instantly to her commands. "Humanity's greatest advantage," she continued, "isn't our technology. It's our ability to adapt, to deceive, to turn your own assumptions against you. You believed we were barely capable of interstellar flight, while we were developing biosynthetic interfaces that surpassed your highest achievements." First Commander Xan lunged for the emergency control panel. Sarah calmly activated the security field she had prepared, containing him in a bubble of shimmering energy. "Please don't make this more difficult than it needs to be," she said. "I have no desire to harm anyone." "The Confederation will never surrender to a single human infiltrator," Xan spat, his secondary arms beating uselessly against the force field. "They won't have to." Sarah brought up another display, showing the approaching signatures of Earth's defense fleet. "Once I disabled your weapons, I sent a signal to our hidden forces. Did you really think Earth wouldn't have contingency plans? Lieutenant Zex 427 stepped forward, his scientific curiosity seemingly overcoming his shock. Your consciousness, it's actually interfacing directly with our systems, not through program protocols. The maintenance unit you found so fascinating. Sarah allowed her avatar to smile. It's a quantum-enabled biosynthetic shell, Lieutenant. What you saw as impossibly efficient for an AI was actually rather limiting for a human consciousness. The bridge crew watched in stunned silence as Earth's fleet took up defensive positions around the scattered Confederation forces. Sarah had transformed their perfect trap into a perfect defeat, using nothing more than their own prejudices against them. Now, she addressed the commanding officers. I suggest we discuss the terms of a more honest diplomatic relationship between Earth and the Confederation, one based on mutual respect rather than deception. First Commander Sand's scales had shifted to a deep blue of resignation. In a matter of minutes, she had not only prevented their attack, but had fundamentally changed the balance of power in their part of the galaxy. Humanity's facade of technological inferiority had served its purpose. Now it was time for the real negotiations to begin. The conference room of the Confederation Mothership had never hosted a meeting quite like this one. Sarah's avatar stood at the head of the table, surrounded by holographic displays showing feeds from across the fleet. Representatives from every species in the Confederation watched as she systematically dismantled decades of carefully constructed lies. The technical specifications we're sharing now are accurate, she explained, bringing up detailed schematics of Earth's actual capabilities. No more deception from either side. That's our condition for moving forward. First Commander San, his scales now a muted gray of diplomatic neutrality, studied the data with all four eyes. Your biosynthetic interface technology. It's generations ahead of our projections. While your own AI systems, Sarah responded, highlighting relevant sections of her analysis, are more advanced in certain areas than ours. We could benefit from collaboration rather than conflict. Lieutenant Zex 427 leaned forward, his scientific curiosity fully engaged. The maintenance protocols you used to mask your presence, they weren't just programming. You were actually improvising responses in real time. The best deception contains elements of truth, Sarah said. Every efficiency improvement, every system optimization I implemented was real. I simply ensured they remained within the parameters you expected from Earth's supposed level of technology. Through the ship's sensors, she monitored the ongoing reorganization of the fleet. The smaller species vessels had formed their own defensive formations, no longer automatically deferring to Confederation command ships. The balance of power was shifting with every revelation. Your infiltration of our flagship will not be forgotten, Chief Security Officer Nexer growled, his claws tapping against the conference table. Neither will your planned surprise attack on Earth, Sarah countered smoothly. But we're offering a path forward that doesn't end in conflict. The question is whether the Confederation can adapt to a galaxy where they're not the undisputed technological leaders. The holographic displays shifted, showing the newly arrived Earth ships taking up escort positions around the Confederation fleet. The vessels were clearly more advanced than anything the Confederation had believed possible from humanity. Your species achieved all this by letting us underestimate you, one of the minor species representatives observed. While we fought for position within the Confederation's hierarchy, you were quietly surpassing us all. Sarah's avatar nodded. Earth chose to appear weak while building strength, but now we're offering real cooperation. Think of what we could achieve together, without the constraints of deception. First Commander Sand's scales shifted through several emotional patterns before settling on a shade Sarah had never seen before. The Confederation Council will need time to process these developments, but it seems we have little choice but to negotiate. You always have a choice, Sarah corrected him. That's something my time among your people has taught me. The Confederation chose dominance through deception. Earth chose preparation through patience. Now we all can choose a different path. The representatives murmured among themselves as Sarah brought up a draft of the proposed new treaty. Her mission had accomplished more than just preventing an attack. It had fundamentally changed the dynamics of galactic politics. Lieutenant Zex 427 approached her after the formal discussions ended. "I knew there was something different about you," he said, his scales showing genuine admiration. "Though I never imagined. Will you continue to serve as an intermediary?" Sarah allowed her avatar to smile. "My mission has evolved, Lieutenant. Instead of maintaining the illusion of Earth's weakness, I'll be helping to build genuine understanding between our peoples." Through the conference room viewport, Earth's ships and the Confederation fleet were beginning to coordinate their movements, learning to work together. It was a small step, but a significant one. The facade had served its purpose. Now the real work could begin, not of deception or dominance, but of genuine cooperation. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not through overwhelming force, but through patience, adaptability, and the courage to reveal their true strength at the perfect moment.